Hey everyone, how you doing? We're live. I'm John Park. This is my workshop. Welcome to today's live stream, John Park's workshop on Adafruit. We've got everyone kind of hanging out over in Discord and YouTube chat. So if you're over on Twitch or Periscope or Facebook and you're looking for people to chat with, there's probably more people here on Discord and on the YouTube chat. So check those out if you can. I know that's tricky for some people who are on phones. I'm not sure about chat on YouTube Live, but I don't know about the Discord. They've got to have an app. I've just heard people say they've had problems with it. Maybe it's an Android thing. I don't know. So without further ado, let's talk about today's project. So the project I want to look at today is a really cool Raspberry Pi project, Pi 0W project to be precise, and it is called the Scrollbot. So the Scrollbot, let me pull up some info here for you. The Scrollbot is actually gonna take a, where's my screen I want to share? Let me go to this screen right here. So the Scrollbot is a project that is brought to us by the good people at Pimaroni in the UK. And I know they pronounce it Pimaroni, at least some of them do, but I can't do that because I don't use a Raspberry Pi. It's hard to say. But Pimaroni, I'm going to call you that, sorry. You're welcome to call me whatever you like. So Pimaroni Scroll Fat, this is a small hat for the Raspberry Pi 0W. You can use it on other Raspberry Pis, but its form factor is for the Pi 0. And so this is this great little, what is it, 17 by 7, 17 by 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's 17 by 8 matrix of tiny little surface mount LEDs. And so we're going to take a look at that and how to program it, how to talk to it in Python. It's got a really cool Python library, makes it easy to communicate with. And then we're also going to build this little project out, which is based on the first one. So this is an enclosure that the good folks at Pimaroni, gosh, now I'm saying it wrong, or right, have built. So let's take a look at, I'm going to switch over to a little bit of a fancy view I've got here. So this is, just for scale, you can see my hand in here. This is the lovely little Scroll Fat on a Pi 0. And actually, you know what? I lie. Let me switch over to, let's switch over to this view. Yeah, I'm going to head over to the bench. All right. So on my workbench here, you can see I've got a little keyboard and mouse and monitor plugged into, I'm going to move this out from the down shooter for a second, plugged into this Raspberry Pi 0. And I've got the ScrollFat HD high def. They used to have another one that was a smaller density, lower density. So I've got this all plugged in. Let's set this back under the down shooter. So I'm using a little hub to connect a mouse and keyboard. The Pi 0W has Wi-Fi on it, so I don't need to plug in Ethernet to get connectivity or a dongle, which is really nice. I haven't used these that much, but I'm like, man, this is cool to have the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth built in. It's crazy. And then over here I've got HDMI display that it's plugged into. A word about this, I had another little monitor that I was using, Dye. I have bought this sort of bare HDMI panel to use for a project that's upcoming, but I haven't gotten started on that yet. So I switched over to using this, but I didn't want it just kind of hanging, floating free. So I mounted it to a piece of wood and mounted the control, what do you call it, the board, the HDMI driver board, all the electronics. I mounted that onto the back. And then I needed a way to support it. So looking around the shop, I found a silly but pretty functional solution, which is casters. So I have 4 casters built onto this thing. It's almost like a robot platform is waiting to happen here. But that kept all this electronics up off the bench. And it's kind of convenient for the way I'm using it, which is to show you guys stuff. Obviously, this is a weird angle to look at normally, but I could tilt it up and set it on something. But for overhead, well, there you go. It's kind of the best, flattest, can rest on the bench top overhead monitor I've got. So let me zoom in on that. Enough about that silliness. And let me show you the way that you typically will work with this Pi Zero with the Scroll Fat HD on it. And pardon me if stuff blows around a bunch today. I've got my door open to the shop, and it's crazy windy here in California. As you've probably heard, in Southern California, we've had some bad wind and pretty terrible fires. So we're okay here where I live, but it's pretty touch and go in other parts of LA right now. So there's some crazy Santa Ana winds blowing. You may hear stuff flying around, but we should be okay. All right, so switching back over to this overhead cam. So what I'm going to do, and I'll explain this as I go. You don't need to necessarily read this. We'll look at a screen capture later a little more as I'm working on it from my other computer, and I'll tell you how that's possible. So from here, if I look at the example code that comes with this. So Pimoroni has it set up really nicely. You put a operating system. I'm using Raspbian Stretch. So I put that on a SD card that I flashed on my computer, stuck it in here, and then once you get online with it, connect to your Wi-Fi after booting it up, there's like a one-line script, like a curl script that goes out and downloads and installs everything you need to use the drivers for this, this little this little Scroll Fat HD. So once you've gone through that, you'll have the libraries you need as well as some example files. So let's take a look at. I'm just going to run. Here's a sort of typical scrolling one. So what I'm typing in here is Python and then the name of one of these Python scripts. Let's do. Where's the one I want to show you? It's not sideways. Is it sideways? Well, let's do a hello world. And I'm typing on this crummy little keyboard, but it'll get better in a second. I'll show you why. All right, so there goes a little hello world. I can probably right side up that for you. There you go. So this is sort of the normal orientation for it, right? I've got it. There's a little piece of code that we'll look at that you can use to rotate the entire display. When you're using it as the robot later, you want it in one orientation versus another. So they make it very easy in code. If you have everything except you decide you need to install it flipped around, you can fix that very easily. So I'm going to just Control-C out of this, and it takes care of blanking the screen for you, which is kind of nice. So I'll show you a couple other little examples, but then we'll get into more of the meat of it in a second from my other computer. So let's see some other examples. So that's some nice scrolling text, and it's actually very simple to do that sort of thing. There's also some nice dithering and fading and these kinds of effects on the pixels in some of these demo scene style demos. So let me do. This keyboard is tiny. Python, and let me do Plasma. That one's pretty darned cool. So you'll see we've got sort of a scaling of this pretty cool dithered dots checker pattern. Now, you know LEDs are kind of hard to capture on video, so that's one issue we face. The other is you usually want some sort of diffusion. So here I've just got a little piece of photographic or film diffusion paper meant for putting in front of lights to diffuse your spotlights or LED lights. So here you can see you get a pretty cool effect with a little piece of diffusion gel about a centimeter above the surface. If you get too close, sometimes you don't get enough diffusion. Still, that's helping, but it's kind of a nice big blobby effect as we come out further. And we'll see that that's something that the clever people at Pimoroni are taking advantage of in their Scrollbot, is diffusing this and actually giving it a color. So I'm going to Control-C out of there. Now, let me switch cameras again for a second. If you look at everything I've got plugged in, I'm going to zoom that camera out. Everything I've got plugged in here, you can see this is kind of a gargantuan amount of stuff to plug into a board that's smaller than the hub. So this is an issue with Pi Zero, is it's got one HDMI, I'm sorry, yeah, it's got one HDMI for display and sound. It's got one USB micro that's just for powering it. That's this one here, this outside one. And then it's got a USB for whatever. So you usually use an over-the-go adapter or a hub like this to plug in multiple mice and keyboards and other USB things. So what I want to do is actually use this in headless mode. And so what we can do is I'm going to detach the HDMI. So that goes away. And I think I'll set my cool little drive, my little monitor over there. And I'm going to disengage or detach the mouse and keyboard. I won't need those anymore, so let's get rid of that stuff. And for those of you who see where this is going, you guessed it, I am going to remote or SSH into the Raspberry Pi over Wi-Fi from my computer. So I'll explain what that is if you're not familiar with that, but in the meantime, let's try to move this mess over here. So the only thing I've got now connected to, I can pull that over there. The only thing I've got connected into the Raspberry Pi is power. And we've got some options on power, actually. That could be a USB charger. So I've got a battery and charger. We'll use that later once we set up the full Scrollbot. Or there's a really cool, I haven't used it yet, but there's a really cool looking add-on for Raspberry Pis and Raspberry Pi Zeros called the Lipo Shim, also from Pimoroni. And it's a small little board that sort of slips between a few of the things you've already put together. And you can solder them onto the male header pins coming off of the Pi Zero, I think is the kind of preferred way to do it. And it gives you a little LiPo up converter, so you can plug a 3.7 volt LiPo battery into it and it will power the device. So one of the things I'm kind of excited about with having played around with this project is it feels like the lines are blurring even further between something like a CircuitPython project on a Feather that has a little display and a Pi Zero W that has this display on it. They can do very similar things. You can program them in Python, and in the case of this one that's on a Raspberry Pi, you can have interactivity with it through sort of normal computing. So being able to type stuff into it with a keyboard without jumping through a lot of hoops is kind of cool and kind of exciting. So there's so many options now for how you approach these kinds of projects that you can slice it pretty thinly and get to just the right option, which is exciting. Okay, so let's see, let me flip my overhead to, this display and make sure that we are right side up or upside down. Let's flip that. I think that'll be right. And now I'm going to go over to my computer, and what I'm going to do is, since this thing is on the wireless network, I'm going to remotely access it from my computer that's also on this same network. So let's head over there. Oh, here comes the wind. Watch out. So let's pop over here, and I'm just going to check in with the chat real quick to make sure that you can see and hear. Oh, there's a question about replicating this on a larger scale with LED strips. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to build a giant one. It gets me thinking. I love the idea of giant matrix displays. Imagination to Form says you'd like a Pi Zero with real connectors. Well, maybe you can make your own. I don't know. Solder, yeah, solder. There's a raging religious war that'll never be settled about how you pronounce that word, but I say solder. And okay, so let me get over to this shell. Okay, so you should be able to see this. So this is on my workstation. This is I'm running on a Macintosh workstation here. And I've just opened a terminal shell. Let me quit out of what I was doing. Let me make my keyboard wake up. There we go. And let me also add to the mix this little guy here. Okay. So let me. Okay, so, oh gosh, someone remind me real quick, how the heck do I get out of this shell session? Is it exit? Okay, so pretend we're walking up to this shell. I've just launched this shell. What I've done first is either while I still had a monitor connected to the Raspberry Pi, or just by looking at my network router and seeing what devices are on it, this I found out is the IP address of the Raspberry Pi Zero. 192.168.0.100. So what I can do from this machine is do this secure shell, SSH, into a username, which is going to be pi at, and then this network address. So 192.168.0.100. And it's going to ask me for the password on that machine. And if I get the password right, now I'm logged into that machine, except I don't have to have a monitor and keyboard and mouse plugged into it. So this guy is just sitting here, but now I'm controlling him from this computer right here, if that makes sense. So now if we look at the directory structure of this Raspberry Pi Zero, the only kind of non-standard thing we have on there is this Pimoroni directory. So I'm going to go there, and that's where we're going to find, I'll show you what's there. That's where we're going to find the devices that you've installed through their script. So there's a lot of different peripherals you can get for Pimoroni. I just have this Scrollfat HD installed on that machine and on that operating system. So if I go into that Scrollfat HD directory, now we have some documentation, some examples. I made a backup of the examples directory and some tools. So let's go to examples. That's where we were before, and here we can see the same stuff I did before. So how about we'll do Python hello world.py, and now you'll see it's running over here on, oh, I do have to flip the display again. Good. So we can see that pretty well. And the like I mentioned, you can see here this is a little bit of a little print statement that tells you when you've launched that script, what script you're running, a little info about it, and it also lets you know to hit Control-C when you exit. And by exiting that way, instead of just kind of killing Python, you give it a chance to run its little keyboard interrupt script, which clears the thing. So let's have a look now at what that Hello World example actually looks like. So I'm using an editor here called Nano, and if we look inside the editor, we can see a few things that are important. One of the key ones is this import Scrollfat HD. So that's the library or module that gives us access to all of the commands that we want to run on that particular board. So it gives us sort of little shortcuts. Instead of trying to talk to GPIO pins and do very low-level stuff, it gives us high-level commands to talk to it. It also imports a font, so it's using a particular font when we type into it. And whoops. You can see here I've done this rotate 180, and that's what flipped the display so that it's in robot orientation. Here's a little print statement. It sets the brightness, and then here's the meat of it. We have a string that says hello world. We have a starting position for it on the X and Y axes, which font it's in, and what the brightness is. So that sets the thing that we're actually going to be printing. And then this is what loops all the time. We're showing the thing that we've already kind of printed into the buffer, the memory buffer of the device, and we're scrolling it. And scroll is you can see it's a very high-level command. We're not giving it much info, just scroll. And what it knows to do, if you don't give it any other arguments, is to just step one pixel at a time across the display. So you can see here, let's simplify this. Let's just put in, how about a number 5. Whoops, that wasn't where I thought I was. Into this argument here, and then I'm going to save that and run Python to hello world again. And now if you watch on my display, it's just got this number 5 scrolling by. Okay, so let's look at something actually a little simpler even than that, which is if I, let me show you in my, where do I have it? In the reference, where are you, reference? Okay, here's the reference to the functions. So these are the things you can do inside of Python to talk to that board. And it's pretty minimal what you can do. So the most simple thing you can do is set a pixel. So this says if we, and I'm just going to move this over to where I can still read it, but you can see me typing stuff in. So instead of writing a Python script and executing a script, I can just go directly into Python. So now remember, I'm SSH'd over into that Raspberry Pi. I'm running Python, an interactive Python session on it, just from this remote location of my workstation. So now inside of Python, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that Scrollfat HD, and I'm going to give it a simple name or a short name so it's faster to type. So I'm importing this whole library called Scrollfat HD, but I'm giving it this short name SC so that it's quick to type. So it's just imported that code into memory on the board, and now I can do this set pixel, and I'm just going to set a X and a Y and a brightness. So let's do 5 pixels over from the left at 0 on Y, and let's do a brightness of 1. Let's go full brightness. Now you're not going to see anything when I set this pixel because all I've done is put it into memory. Now we need to show it. So SC show. And the reason, fire that on, so now you can see the 5th pixel over and at the bottom. The reason this is done is so that you don't always see lots of dots drawing on when you want to sort of blit one image up all at once. So you can do things that create the on state of pixels inside of the buffer and then show them or slide them or rotate them as you want. If I want to, so for example, that one's on there. If I do want to set some other pixels. And by the way, I noticed pixel is also a command. I don't know if they deprecated or mean to deprecate that, but it does the same thing as far as I can tell, a set pixel. So let's go 1 more over and 1 up and dimmer. So half the brightness. Oops, what did I say? SD I said, SC. And now I'm hitting the up arrow key to just repeat commands I did before. So now you can see I've got 2 pixels on there. So let's add 1 more to that. So if I up arrow, I'm just getting this command again. And we'll go 1 more up, 1 more over, same brightness, and show that. So now I've got this kind of little diagonal. So now you can see, once I set this here, check this out. We can do this, instead of having to tell it to redraw those at different sort of XY coordinates, I can tell it to scroll that whole thing somewhere. So I'm going to do this SC scroll, and we'll go 1 over on X, and we'll leave it alone in Y, and then show it again. So you can see it just moved the whole thing. So now that I've built this sort of image bitmap sort of thing, this set of memory addresses into memory, now I can move it around. Now I can do things like rotate the whole display 180. Actually, I should probably set this to 0. Let's see if that works or not. And then show. No, okay, it's relative to the last one. So let's rotate it 180. And then I'm going to, oops, rotate 180 and show it. Okay, so it's kind of rotated the orientation of the entire screen. So let's rotate that back and show it again. No, I guess it does want 0. All right. Yeah, that's right, I had never rotated this one. So it's an absolute rotation. That's good to know. And it's back. Now we can even do things like try to make it stream across from within this interactive session, although sometimes that's a pain and it's easier to write it as a script. But let me try that real quick. So I've got to bring in time as well so that I can, this is a library that allows me to do things with time. And let's do a little loop here. So while true, I'm going to SC show I'm going to sc scroll, whoops, not screw, scroll 1 pixel, and then I'm going to give it a little sleep time. So how about time? So you can see I'm talking to a different library there than I was when I'm talking to this scroll fat HD library. So I'm talking to a time library, so I say, hey, time, do this, do sleep, and a real short, about 03. And now you can see we're scrolling this thing across without anything all that complicated, without having to talk about what each individual pixel is every time and add one to them. Instead, we get to use this high-level library, sorry, things are blowing around outside, to move or transform or rotate this essentially bitmap that's in memory. So now I can, let's see, I'm going to, so you can see if I just quit the script, it's now got that set of pixels sort of lit and they're staying there. So I'm going to do a clear and then another show. Okay. Let's see. So there's one other thing I wanted to do, which is show you another reason you might want to have this sort of thing as a remote. So I've got this could be like a Christmas tree ornament, it could be a name tag, but if it's on Wi-Fi and I have a station somewhere or some reason to be able to enter stuff in, like think of hacking conferences where people want to hack badges and put, people's IP addresses up on badges and things like that. If you want to be able to talk to these devices wirelessly, how about we give it a little bit of an easier interface than just editing a script? So what I did was, let's quit out of this interactive Python session I have right now, and I'm going to show you, so there's this one called JP Welcome. So let me show you the script first. So I took their Hello World example, and I just modified it a little bit to accept an input. So you can see I've got a variable up here at the top called text message. Kind of a weird name I gave it, but there you go. And text message, I happen to be running this on Python 2, so it uses raw input instead of input. It's a difference between Python 2 and 3. So raw input is going to say to the user in the shell that they're typing this into, enter your message, then hit return. And then it waits for you to actually do that. And the answer that you give it becomes the value of this variable text message. So then later on, you can see what we're doing here is we're giving the scrollfatHD command to write a string, and then that string text message, that's what I entered in. And it's going to, just like we did a second ago, enter that into the memory buffer of the graphic. And then the loop that happens there while true is the same thing as before. It's this show it, scroll it a pixel, and then wait a tiny fraction of a second, and then continue. So I'm going to exit out of here, and what this means is my message, I don't have to know what it is and hard code it there. Instead, I can now do this Python JP welcome, and it's going to ask me, enter your message, then hit return. So let's do welcome John Parks Workshop. So now I was able to enter my message after running the script. It was waiting there for me, and we can see now it's scrolling through. Yeah, so if I want this to be a little more legible over the video camera, you can see again, if we put on some diffusing, yeah, it gets blurry and fuzzy, but it's also much easier to read. In real life versus a video camera, it's actually not too hard to read that, but definitely over video, you like getting some of that diffusion. So let me head over to the chat for a second and see if anyone has any kind of questions or thoughts about, oh no, you can't see, could you not see the commands I was typing? Sorry about that. Aha. I was a little low on that. I hope that wasn't the whole time. Yeah, so let's get out of that. So again, you can see command I'm typing here is, let's see. Oh yeah, how about that? Can you not see that? Oh, I'm so sorry. There we go. I lowered that a little bit too much. So let's see. Can you see that? Yeah. So here I'm running my Python script, and then it's going to ask me, what do you type? And I'll say, thanks for the tip, chat room. And now you can see that message is going to scroll across there. Now you can do other stuff like use other GPIO and sensors. I think there's a demo out there, I haven't tried it, of using this display as a sort of graphic equalizer display for music, things like that. There's also an example script that I couldn't get working, but it's a Twitter API thing, so those things are often too painful for me to figure out without just deciding it's not worth it. But I'm sure, and actually the good people at Pimoroni said that they were going to help me figure that out. So I'll get that working at some point. But what they had an example script for is you can have a hashtag that is searched for by that device with the Wi-Fi access on the Pi 0, and it will display Twitter messages, which is pretty cool. So yes, so someone just asked, any way to get live data scraped off the web like stock prices? Definitely there are. I'm not sure, other than that Twitter example, I haven't seen any, so I'm not sure what interfaces are possible, but anyone who's well versed with MQTT and other I/O types of things, I'm sure there's a way to scrape data and have it show up there, which is pretty cool. Okay, so what I want to do now actually is switch over to the Workbench and build this cool little robot, and then show you kind of the final look of this thing, which I think is really cool. They've done a nice job with the design. So I'm going to switch over to the Workbench, and let me head over there and we'll build this. So, oh, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the Pi. So you don't just want to unplug it like you may in a microcontroller. So let me switch back for a second to this view so you can see what's going on here. Let me show you the device as well. So I'm going to quit that script that was running. But while I'm still remoted into that, and actually I'm going to raise this up a little more just in case some web browsers are, oh, it won't make it rise up from the bottom because of the way I have it configured, huh? Okay, so if you can see that though, what I'm going to do now is someone remind me, is it Pseudo Shutdown? Will that work? Yep. Oh, it's going to happen in a minute. What's the command for shut it down right now? I'm asking you, chat. Who's the first to answer? Someone tell me how I don't have to wait the 1 minute. Someone is answering. Agent Smith, is that you? Now. Shut down now. Thank you. Phew. Okay, so now, oh, thanks, Micah. I appreciate it. Oh, -H now. What is the @-H? Does it halt something? It halts it too, yeah. I'm so basic with this stuff, I'm sorry. So now that device can be safely unplugged from power. So you don't want to go doing that with a real computer, Raspberry Pi. You can leave stuff in a weird state. Although Phil B. of Adafruit wrote a pretty cool guide to setting up a Raspberry Pi-based project that can be safely just have the power yanked on it without doing anything bad, because it sort of locks files that could get damaged, I think, but I haven't tried that. Okay, so let me switch back over to the Workbench, and let's put this guy together. So this is a cool little kit. Let me grab some water. It's so dry here because of how the Mother Nature is trying to kill us. So here's this great little kit. Zoom this in. And I already pulled those pieces out of it to get started. So that's now I'm going to unplug this from power, you can see. So what you get are a Pi 0W, and you'll solder on these mail headers. And you'll get I'm going to switch over to this little overhead so that I can get even closer upper. That's going to be this one here. So you get your little Pi 0. Is that backwards? Now it's backwards for how I'm holding it. That's better. It's more natural. You get a SD card. You get a header for this little guy here, and then you plug them together, and you're good to go on that. So now if we take a look at what's in this box, I'm so happy about my weird little monitor on wheels thing. Lovely little cable. Actually, I'm going to use that for my battery. That one's sweet. Look at that beauty. I like the color. So that's a little micro USB that you could use for data, or I'm just going to use it for power. So let's set that over there. Here's an over-the-go cable and a HDMI to HDMI mini adapter. That's the bags that stuff came in. And then we get these multiple layers of super awesome and adorable robot goodness. So there's our outer layer, a little frosted acrylic with some etching on it. Then we get a middle layer, and I got to peel off some protective film. I don't know why some acrylic comes with this plastic and others come with paper, but the paper, if you wait too long, like you have a piece of acrylic you haven't worked with in a couple years, sometimes it's nearly impossible to get that gummy paper residue off. That's a nice orange. If anyone knows in the chat, I'm curious. I'm going to fire my Discord chat back up over here. I'm still having problems getting a YouTube chat to show up on this one. Hey, ezrasky guys, I am still streaming. I started at 1 my time today. It's 1:37 now. And then we got some screws. We have some little standoffs. So this is going to be the diffusion layer on top of that, which is pretty cool. And here's this little stand. So you could go without this little stand if you wanted to make a, switch this camera. If you wanted to make a name badge or an ornament or a tree topper, I'll see if I can convince my family that this should be our tree topper this year. I have that Mario one I made a couple years ago. I might adapt that one for Circuit Playground Express, which would be kind of cool. I built it for a Gemma originally in Arduino. And lastly, we have these little stands that hold this at a nice little viewing angle on your desk. I don't have to sweep this stuff that I'm throwing on the floor because wind is just going to whisk it out of my shop today. There's also some cute stickers. Here, look at these. Adorable stickers that you're meant to do whatever you want with them, or you can stick them on the, oh, there's some more screws. Stick them on the robot. I'll set that over here. And at the end of it, you get this nice carrying case. I didn't mean this to be a sales job for this thing. I'm just excited to play with it and use it as a springboard for maybe some other projects. But those guys make cool stuff. I like Pimeroni. Nice job, dudes and dudettes. That's not PC. Okay, so I'm going to wing this because I don't have the instructions in front of me, but I think it goes a little something like, oh, I'm doing that where you can't see it. Let's get this just a little closer. All right, look at that autofocus on the Sony cameras, huh? Works pretty well. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to put the frosted side down, pop these screws through here. The wind is going to take my whole project away in a second, not just the debris. And then this layer goes right to here, I believe. And now we're going to attach the Pi to the, let's see, I think we'll use these. Do we have 2 of these? Did I lose one of these? That would be bad. Oh, maybe that's an extra. I'm supposed to use a couple of these. So we're going to use these little screws. Let's see, there's 4 of those and 4 for the legs, so I think I lost a necessary screw. Let's see how we do. Oh no, that doesn't fit, so that's definitely not for that. Okay, so that's going to hold that. Let me take the Pi off, and I'm just going to use this to screw down the whoops, screw down the scroll fat. So I don't know what the P in scroll fat is. A hat is a official, oh, there's that missing screw. A hat is an official shield, for lack of a better word, for a Pi. What is a fat? Is that the ones for Pi Zeros, I think. Maybe it's a partial hat? It's a party hat? Who knows? Hey, Azure Skies, what are you working on? Thank you. Oh, there goes a sledgehammer that I was using to hold a piece of diffusion fabric to keep it from blowing around. I ran out of sandbags. Fat. Pi hat? Maybe, but there's a hat. Agent Smith, there's also a hat that's there's a regular one, the big-sized ones. I don't know where the P came from. I wish I could get the, let me try again. I'm going to just try for a quick second to get the YouTube chat up here, because I'm guessing that the answers are coming fast and furious from over there. They were very active on my how to shut down properly quickly question. All right, let's turn the volume off on this so we don't hear myself. And yeah, so I can see my video on YouTube, but I sure can't see the chat. Let's try to rotate this display sideways. Does that give me chat? Nope. Huh. All right, I don't know why. That's the official YouTube app, too. I'm sorry. I'm going to be on Discord while I'm over here, but okay. Did I just put it on wrong? I was talking and I put one of those on wrong. That's supposed to go like that. I was watching my friend Bob Claggett's live stream yesterday, and I said, man, I don't know how you multitask so well, because he sometimes shoots stuff for his real pre-edited videos while he's talking to people doing the live stream, and he does that really, really well, and I'm amazed by it. But yesterday, as he was doing that, he like completely grabbed the two long pieces of wood instead of two shorts and stuck them back together, so I kind of quietly slunk away. But that's just one bad example of it, because he's really amazing. Saying, okay, I just need to have like 3 insert shots for this video that's getting ready to go into editing, and he'll be hanging out with people in the chat. And oh geez, I'm sorry, did I do this? Yeah, see, I am the worst. All right, non c'è due senza tre. This is 3rd time's the charm. So let's pop. Those will go like that, and they're going to set. So this is nice. They've got these little screw heads that go into those little holes that have been cut there into this little multi-layer beauty. They've got a couple of other kits like this. I don't remember what they are, but there's a couple of other Raspberry Pi Zero-sized, adorable Lasercut acrylic kits from Pimoroni. I can do up to and including one thing at a time. Same here, Matavale. I'm stretching my brain resources to talk to you while I do this, and sometimes coming up short. All right, that time that looks right. Okay. And I call it acrylic, but I think in the UK they call it Perspex. I think that's the brand name. Kind of like we used to use plexiglass, right? Hello, MicroWattBot. How you doing? We are putting, let's see, some final touches here, I think, on this. I really should have read the instructions, right? So let's put the legs in like that. Yeah, that looks like it works. Yes, is that fitting in there? I think that is. All right, I'm going to take a short break to go over to my computer, check out YouTube chat, and look at the instructions on this thing. There's some really lovely instructions, I promise. Let's pull those up. How about? So we'll go to screen, go to this. Hide that for now. All right, Pimaroni, Pirate Monkey Robot Ninja. Oh, that's what that stands for. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Someone noticed. See, someone in YouTube noticed. Andy Calloway noticed. Not concentrating, John. Put one of those screws in backwards. That's because I want you on Discord. No, no. Elgato Stream Deck would be super sweet. Yeah. Question from AAA. Did you do a build for the CNC machine you got? I have. I built it and I shot about. I shot over the course of about 16 hours was how long I took to do the build over the course of 2 days. And I have footage from pretty much all of the parts of that were active. So I started bringing that into Premiere to edit and cut it down and speed stuff up. So I am hoping to get that done very close to the new year is my hope. And then I've got a couple projects I'm doing as well. But I want to put out the build video first and then take you through a couple projects on it. Yeah. Okay, so check this out in, where did that window go? Oh, here I've got the lovely build instructions for the Scrollbot. Let's move this over here. Here's our Scrollbot. That's the Pimaroni site. And they've got a page for the, ooh, that came in real low res. Assembly guide. All right, let's see how I did. Making it up. As we go. Okay, that one down with screws through it. Yeah, then that layer. Good. Oh, we were supposed to have a couple of nuts on there first for spacers. I didn't know that. Then screw that down, build the legs, pop them in. Aha, that's the space I'm missing there, and then pop that on. Okay. All right, I hope you dig this sort of thing, because this is what we're doing. Go over and correct that. The other thing I was thinking of doing is maybe adding parts to this, like adding some housing or Lasercut parts. It'd be kind of fun to modify a bit. So what I need to do is grab a screwdriver and undo that which I just did. Scrollfat is not RGB. Agent Smith asked about that. No, it's a monochrome display, and I think the Scrollfat itself is like $12. It's pretty inexpensive, which it would not be the case if it were RGB LEDs. And getting them that dense and that small, I don't know if we have any. Do we have anything that dense and that small? I guess there's like some little dot star. Pretty dense dot star displays, but no, this one's not. Partial hat, someone said. Thanks, Nate, MN. That's what FAT stands for. It's a partial hat. All right. So, concentrating now, this pair of screws gets a nut on top of them as a little spacer. I might have known. It's hard to get these started sometimes. I actually noticed on the nylon, the little black nylon nuts that we have with the 2.5 millimeter, the M2.5 rather, screw sets that we sell at the Adafruit store. There's a sort of chamfered side and a not chamfered side of the nut, and the chamfered side threads on a lot easier. It must be a manufacturing thing. I can't think of any reason why otherwise they wouldn't have that kind of little bevel chamfer on both sides, like a normal sort of metal nut does. Okay, now we got that little space. That's going to make the legs go on properly, which is a good thing. So let's get these on. Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, a bunch of these are, so there's one extra of this big screw, and I think both of those extras on these longer, skinny ones. I'm guessing these are 2.5 and 3, M2.5 and M3. All right, that's on nice. This will go here. And so these little rectangles on the sides here, I'll hold this up so you can see. Let me go over to this camera, actually. Put my cursor in the right spot. And my switcher box needs the cursor to be in that app. It's particular about that. Let's go to this. Actually, let's go to Big O Vision there. which one is this? This should be large pink. There we go. So this cutout here is where the, let's set that down, where the excess of this leg sits down once it gets held captive in this. So it gets held captive in this and has a little place to go. This is something you kind of have to consider when you're doing Lasercut builds, is how to, using pretty much whatever the width of your material is, since you're cutting everything flat, you're designing everything to be cut sort of in 2 dimensions from flat down. This is 3mm acrylic, so you have a lot of these things that end up being, I need a little 3mm thing jetting out the end, so that'll fit just perfectly in the next piece, or 6mm in this case, because it goes through a couple layers. And we'll screw on. They've also got these cute little precision cut cubes of rubber. I like these, that they just wedge in there. I don't think those are Lasercut, because I don't know of a rubber that's safe other than like that stamp material. Maybe there is, but they don't have any telltale look of Lasercut. Does anyone know? Anyone here done any laser cutting of rubber? Micah, have you done any? I was thinking of doing stamps. We just got stamps made for stamping holiday card envelopes, and I kind of want to do it myself. But my wife just said, you know what? You can't make everything that we need, so I'm going to go and buy it. She was right. All right, so again, see here we go in, down, and then to keep that from coming up, we go into this little square here that is super clever, really clever design. All right, let's screw that in the rest of the way there. Pirate, monkey, what? Robot ninja? Pim Maroney. That's a great name. Pirate. See, it's not pirate. Is it pirate in the UK? Please tell me it's not. I don't mean to pick a fight here today. All right, last one. I'm going to switch to this camera here. And yeah, I'm much happier with this new kind of layout I have on Wirecast that I started last week. So now I can mix and match overlay and background. I had them as prepared layouts before, and that was not as efficient. All right, so that looks good. Let's see, does this fit still, please? Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Adorable! All right, and now let's fire it up with remote power. So this is the outside one, is the power. And then I built a little, here's a little Lipo charger pack I made with one of these, what are they, 4400 milliamp hour dual cylinder Lipo. I use this to charge my phone on the go. And there's a power boost in here. I 3D printed a little case for it. By the way, funny story, this case, I ran out of filament right here. And so I fed in, I saw it happening. And this is on the Type A machines, Series 1. So I was able to grab a piece of white filament and shove it in there and let it, it was like just a stick of it, let it go for a few layers, and then I fed in another spool of the blue. And I ended up with a really stylish little stripe there. Unintentional coolness. Okay, ready? Let's plug this. This is a little bent. Let's plug this in here. I'm going to flip him up so you can see him. Let's turn it on. So we should see a little green LED. You can see that blinking in there to say that he's on. And now I'm going to head over to my workstation where I can hopefully SSH back in. And hopefully he's grabbed the same ID. So let's do the little version of that camera and a big version of this one. And I'm gonna move that there. All right, let's find my shell. Can you see that? Yeah, I think so. All right, so, oh, keyboard wake up. Okay. Does it find it? That's not good. I'm going to look at my router. Oh, it did. It just took a while. I wonder why it took that long. All right. I'm in. It's like a hacker movie. I'm in. All right. It is not like a hacker. I don't know why I said that. Let's see. Scrollbot examples. And let's do a really super rad one. This is the robot mouth. Get ready. Come on, it doesn't get any robotier than that. How awesome. I love him so much. He is so cool. Come on. That is awesome. This is going to be very fun to play with. What languages does he speak? He speaks like Python and stuff. Oh, ezrasky's answered that question. Working on his lightsaber mods. Oh yeah, you've been doing some cool saber mods. That's cool, ezrasky. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, it reminds me of Rudy from the Jetsons. Okay, this guy's cool. Let's just, I know this is not all that neat, but I'm going to just show you some of the different examples. Actually, if we go into tests, this is kind of neat. We can do like, let's look at these. Fill test. So you can fill a range. You pick the coordinate points of a pixel. So you can see, let me give you this screen here for a second. I'll give you this with that. Is that how I did that a second ago? I'm screwing up my whole thing, but I don't know why that's, so something that's cut off on the screen. Let me exit that and try to relaunch it. Oh, what's that box? Oh, you know what? That's a black box that I have there. Ha. All right. Wah-da. There we go. So if you look at this command is fill, scroll fat fill, and then you tell it a brightness, followed by the bottom left corner, so 0, 0, and then how many pixels over and up you want to go to make some sort of a shape. So you can just put a block down. You can also carve them out. You can clear rectangles. So let's get out of here and run that. This is just going to be filling the thing. Oh, and I had modified it. Yeah, I gave it a gap tooth, so I was messing around with that little, this is not what the real example does, but I had given it a little clear rectangle, whatever that code is. Let's see, where's my reference guide? Where'd that go? I got a lot of windows around here, people. All right. And I've just started using Firefox Gamma, or what's it called? Quantum. And it doesn't have some of the things I'm used to as far as right-clicking and finding my way around. So the display graph, this fill an area, clear an area, that's what I was using to make that gappy tooth. You can also do, let's see, this I don't know what this one is testing in particular, but it's cute. Sort of fading up and down of the brightness, I think, on this little checkerboard pattern. And let's do another pretty robot-y one. So it actually has a graph. There's a graph function in here where it can be fed data as an array, and then it'll draw graphs for you. This one's just using something pseudo-random, I think, for it. Let's see, where's graph? Display a graph. So parameters are value, a list of numerical values to display, low, lowest possible value, high, highest, the brightness, the X position, Y position, width, and height. So that's pretty cool, and I think that you could use that if you're reading in something like the voltage or a loudspeaker or something like that over a microphone. That could be pretty fun and cute little display of something or other. I actually went to a class at Burbank Makerspace earlier this week on car programming, they called it, but it was basically kind of an introduction to CAN bus network and ODB2 and the ways you interface with cars. I've never messed with that stuff, and now I'm kind of excited to add weird gauges to my car, so it'd be kind of fun to have this robot represent my fuel gauge or RPMs or something like that. So in the new year, if I get some time, I'm going to start monkeying around with car stuff, which will be fun for my Jeep to have a robot on the dashboard. All right, let's see. We are getting close on time. I just want to set him running something cute, and then I wanted to show you one other thing, and then we'll get out of here. Oh, Swirl. The Swirl one is awesome. That's the one they have in their gift demos. So let's run Swirl. How about... That is awesome. All right. Let me go back over to the Workbench. I'm going to leave that up for you. Let me head over here. I'm going to fix where I put that. Let's put that back. You go back there. And he would also be kind of a cool recording in progress alert guy to put like outside the workshop when I'm filming. Kind of fun. Ooh, it slows down. That's groovy. So the other thing I wanted to show you is, and there's a person I'm giving this to for Christmas, so I hope they're not watching, but I built a little Raspberry Pi RetroPie in this adorable little case that I found on Thingiverse and printed, this little 3D Atari 2600 style case. So keeping with my theme, let me set this in here for a second. Keeping with my theme of Atari 2600 stuff that I started last week. Look at that cuteness. Huh? Too adorable. So it's got a Pi 3 in there. This little thing lifts off, which is kind of nice. And I haven't figured out how this is meant to go on, if it's meant to really fit inside there. I got some filing to do and then glue it down. And then instead of 3D printing these little posts, which there's no way I could get straight on my printer, I just pushed some small finishing nails through and clipped them off with diagonal cutters to make the little... So those are dummies. Those don't actually control anything at all. They're a lie, but a cute lie, right? So I'm excited about that. And I also got one of these Buffalo brand, I swear I'm not shilling for these people, but this is everyone's favorite USB SNES controller for these things. And I've had some pretty cool Bluetooth controllers that I've been using, like on my iPad, but this is a really nice wired one, and it's not that expensive. It was like 16 bucks, I think. So I just set that up, and now I'm going to put some games on there. But check out like Atari 2600 RetroPie case on Thingiverse if you want to find that. It's super great. Really lovely design. Happy about that. I also, I know I said that was the last thing, but I lied. I also was inspired by the Ruiz brothers' little charging dock for micro USB stuff. So they made it to use with like featherboards or Circuit Playground Express is what I've got on here. So it's a nice little breakout for micro USB. There's the little breakout board here on this side, and then there's the little DIY micro USB mail header here, and they've got it nicely. So the Ruiz brothers made a really nice enclosure design, and so this thing is secured in here. You're not going to break it by pushing down on it. It's pressed up against a little bump in the case. And so now I'll be able to just set that on my desk and either charge it or actually program its data is connected through all the way when I'm working on stuff. So I might make an army of these. It'd be kind of cool to have an array of these, maybe put some little horns on it to drill it down onto things or put a weight in it. Anyway, that's that. And that's all I've got. So thanks everyone for coming out today for John Park's workshop. It was fun just building a kit for a change instead of something from scratch. I hope that it was instructive and fun for you. And I will be hanging out in the chat a little bit after the show, so stick around. And thanks to everyone for showing up, everyone on Twitch, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and Discord. Great to see you. Thank you so much, and I will see you this time next week. Bye-bye.